few films redefined action cinema, the way Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior did in 1981. This Australian sequel took the raw energy of the first film and expanded it into a furious ballet of engines, leather, and desert fire. Its vision of a crumbling world became the blueprint for post-apocalyptic storytelling across movies, games, and television. But behind the dust and chaos are stories just as wild as anything on screen. Today we're revealing 25 secrets about this movie that even longtime fans might not know. Number 1. The Dog That Was Saved. One of the most heartwarming stories from the wasteland began not with roaring engines, but in a small animal shelter. The loyal cattle dog that became Max's companion was found there, scheduled to be put down the very next day. A member of the crew spotted him and thought his scrappy look was perfect for the role. That lucky discovery changed his fate forever. On set, the dog quickly became a favorite. To protect him from the deafening roar of car engines, the crew crafted tiny custom earplugs. Despite the dangerous stunts surrounding him, he adapted remarkably well to the chaos of filming. When the cameras stopped rolling, his story had an even better ending. One of the camera operators adopted him, ensuring that Max's on-screen friend had a safe and loving home in real life. It's a reminder that even in a movie about survival and destruction, moments of compassion still shine through. Number 2. Max hardly speaks. What makes the main character so unforgettable isn't just his leather jacket or his iconic car, but the silence that surrounds him. In The Road Warrior, Mel Gibson speaks only 16 lines throughout the entire film. Instead of lengthy speeches, George Miller wanted the audience to feel Max's emotions through his actions, expressions, and the brutal world around him. This approach gave the story a mythic quality. Max became less of a talkative survivor and more of a wandering legend, a lone figure whose presence spoke louder than words. His silence allowed viewers to project their own ideas onto him, making him a universal character rather than a simple action hero. The decision also elevated the movie's tension. Without constant dialogue, every sound, the growl of engines, the clash of metal, the screams from the wasteland, hit harder. In the end, the lack of words made Max more powerful, and it cemented The Road Warrior as one of the most visually driven films of its time. Number 3. The creepy music box. Amid the chaos of engines and explosions, one of the film's most haunting details came from a simple prop. The feral child discovers a small hurdy-gurdy that plays the familiar tune of Happy Birthday. In a desolate wasteland where innocence seems long forgotten, this cheerful melody strikes a chilling contrast. The moment works on multiple levels. It reminds viewers of the ordinary world that has been lost, a place where birthdays once meant joy and celebration. In the barren desert, however, that same sound feels eerie, almost ghostly, underscoring how far humanity has fallen. This small touch shows George Miller's mastery of atmosphere. Instead of relying solely on action, he used quiet, unsettling moments to deepen the film's emotional impact. The music box became more than a toy. It was a symbol of innocence clashing with the brutality of survival. Number 4. Fake dog food brand. Sometimes the most memorable props aren't weapons or vehicles, but small details that add a touch of authenticity. In The Road Warrior, Max is seen eating from cans of Dinky dog food. While it looks like an ordinary brand, it was actually created specifically for the film. The name itself is a clever play on Australian slang, meaning the genuine article. This detail adds both humor and realism. The sight of a hardened survivor casually eating dog food highlights just how far the world has collapsed, while the cheeky brand name gives audiences a subtle wink. It also speaks to the filmmaker's creativity, making sure even background props felt like they belonged to this ruined future. Over time, Dinky became a fan-favorite Easter egg, showing up in Mad Max memorabilia and fan discussions. It's proof that in George Miller's wasteland, even a can of food could tell a story about survival, resourcefulness, and the bleak humor of life after civilization. Number 5. Hiding Gibson in the US. When the movie was prepared for release in the United States, the marketing team faced a unique challenge. Mel Gibson, though already a rising star in Australia, was virtually unknown to American audiences at the time. Instead of building the campaign around him, the trailers focused almost entirely on the action, the roaring cars, the explosions, and the chaotic wasteland battles. This choice worked in the film's favor. By keeping the lead actor in the background, the marketing turned the movie into a mysterious event, driven less by star power and more by pure spectacle. Viewers were drawn in by the wild energy and relentless chase scenes, curious about the untamed world they glimpsed in the previews. Ironically, the gamble paid off. While Gibson's face wasn't used to sell the movie, the Road Warrior catapulted him into international stardom, ensuring that in future films, his name alone would become a major draw. Number 6. The set that shook a town. Building the refinery compound wasn't just another set design. It became the largest and most expensive set ever constructed in Australia at that time. The towering walls and clustered fuel tanks gave the wasteland community a tangible weight, making it feel like a fortress on the edge of survival. When the story demanded that it be destroyed, the filmmakers staged a massive explosion that exceeded expectations. The blast was so powerful it rattled the surrounding town of Broken Hill, startling residents and disrupting activity at nearby mines. Even local air traffic had to account for the sudden shockwave. The moment became more than just a scene in a movie. It turned into a local legend, remembered by the community long after the cameras stopped rolling. For the film itself, it demonstrated George Miller's commitment to practical spectacle, showing audiences that the wasteland was as dangerous off-screen as it was in the story. Number 7. The broken leg stunt. Not every spectacular moment on screen was carefully planned. During one of the film's high-risk motorcycle stunts, professional rider Guy Norris was thrown violently from his bike. The crash left him with a fractured femur, a serious injury that could have ended his time on the production. Remarkably, Norris wasn't content to simply step aside. After recovering, he returned to the set and continued working, not only as a stunt performer, but also doubling for several different characters. His dedication meant that even though he had suffered a painful setback, he still became one of the most vital contributors to the movie's explosive action sequences. His work, visible across multiple scenes, gave the illusion that countless raiders were swarming the screen, when in reality, one young stuntman was performing many of the most dangerous moves. Norris's resilience turned an unfortunate accident into part of the film's enduring legacy. Number 8. 200 stunts, minimal safety. The action in The Road Warrior feels raw and dangerous for a reason, because it truly was. The production featured more than 200 separate stunts, a staggering number for a movie of its size and budget. Cars flipped, motorcycles soared, and raiders hurled themselves onto moving vehicles with little more than grit and training to keep them safe. Unlike today's sets with layers of safety protocols and digital effects, this was filmmaking on the edge. Protective gear was kept to a minimum, so costumes would remain authentic, and many of the sequences were captured in a single take. The stunt team's courage gave the film its unforgettable energy, pushing the boundaries of what audiences thought possible. The results paid off on screen. Every crash and leap carried a sense of genuine danger, leaving viewers breathless. It's no wonder that decades later, these stunts are still celebrated as some of the boldest ever attempted in action cinema. Number 9. The cameraman in disguise. Sometimes the wildest sights on set weren't part of the script. During the tanker chase, director George Miller decided he wanted to capture shots himself. To blend in with the extras, he dressed in a raider costume and climbed into a dune buggy equipped with a mounted camera. The idea was bold, but it didn't go smoothly. Miller's background wasn't in stunt driving, and the rough terrain made his handling unpredictable. After a few attempts, the crew stepped in and reassigned the task to a more experienced driver. Even so, the image of the director in full costume, bouncing across the desert in his own action scene, has become a favorite behind-the-scenes story. It captures the spirit of The Road Warrior, a film where everyone, even the man calling the shots, threw themselves into the chaos. Number 10. Rain in the Wasteland. Filming in the Australian Outback meant bracing for blistering heat and endless dust. But just as the production settled into the desert rhythm, nature had other plans. A rare storm rolled in, bringing the first heavy rains the region had seen in more than a decade. Instead of dry sand, the set became a mud pit. Vehicles bogged down, costumes became caked in grime, and performers found themselves shivering in cold, wet conditions. For a movie that relied on speed and dust clouds, the timing couldn't have been worse. Yet the crew adapted, adjusting schedules and finding ways to make the best of the unexpected weather. What could have been a disaster ultimately added to the authenticity of the film, proving that survival wasn't just part of the story, it was part of the shoot itself. Number 11. Humungous was almost goose. Fans have long speculated about the true identity of Lord Humungous, the masked leader of the Raiders. Early drafts of the story explored a shocking twist, that he was actually Jim Goose, Max's police partner from the first film, left horrifically scarred but alive. Hints of that idea linger in the finished movie. Humungous bears severe burns beneath his mask. His raiders drive former police vehicles, and he even wields a weapon similar to the ones carried by officers in Mad Max. While the connection was never made official, it gives his character an added layer of mystery. By leaving the reveal ambiguous, Miller allowed fans to debate and theorize for decades. It's one of those subtle touches that keeps audiences returning to the wasteland, searching for hidden links between the films. Number 12. Punk fashion apocalypse. One of the most striking aspects of The Road Warrior wasn't just the roaring engines, but the costumes that defined its brutal world. Designed by Norma Morrisseau, the outfits leaned heavily on punk culture. Leather straps, spikes, chains, and bold silhouettes that felt both futuristic and savage. This style did more than just dress the characters. It created an entire language of visual storytelling, showing how the collapse of society had reshaped identity. Raiders wore shredded, intimidating gear to project fear, while the refinery settlers used practical, patched clothing to show resilience. Morrisseau's designs won her an AFI award and influenced decades of post-apocalyptic fashion in film, music, and even video games. Her vision turned the wasteland into a catwalk of chaos, where survival and style collided in unforgettable ways. Number 13. The Interceptor's real blower. Few vehicles in cinema are as iconic as Max's pursuit special, better known simply as the Interceptor. In the first Mad Max, its menacing supercharger was a non-functional prop, added for visual flair. But for the Road Warrior, the blower was made to work, giving the car the authentic roar that matched its ferocious look. The change might seem minor, but it gave the vehicle a new sense of realism. Audiences could feel that the Interceptor wasn't just a shell, it was a genuine machine of speed and power. In a film where vehicles are as much characters as the people driving them, the upgrade elevated its presence on screen. Though the Interceptor would meet a fiery fate during the movie, its brief return with a functional supercharger helped cement it as one of the greatest screen cars ever built. Number 14. Boomerang lessons from Gibson. Sometimes it was the smallest details that brought authenticity to the wasteland. Emil Minty, the child actor who played the feral kid, had never thrown a boomerang before filming began. To make sure his performance looked convincing, Mel Gibson personally taught him how to use the iconic weapon. Their training sessions also included a rather unusual lesson: how to deliver a headbutt without hurting himself. While it might not have been part of the official script, the skill gave Minty confidence in portraying the wild, fearless energy of his character. The effort paid off on screen. The feral kid's boomerang toss became one of the movie's most memorable moments, and his bond with Gibson behind the scenes added warmth to a production otherwise filled with dangerous stunts and grim settings. Number 15. A small budget, a huge payoff. At first glance, the film didn't seem destined for blockbuster success. With a budget of just 4.5 million Australian dollars, it was modest compared to the sprawling Hollywood productions of its era. Yet, when the dust settled, The Road Warrior earned more than $36 million worldwide, making it one of the most profitable films of its time. This success proved that Australian cinema could compete on the global stage. Word of mouth about its jaw-dropping action and relentless pacing spread quickly, drawing crowds far beyond its home market. The movie became not only a financial triumph, but also a calling card for George Miller and his team. In many ways, the film's humble beginnings added to its legend, showing that vision, determination, and fearless filmmaking could outweigh even the largest budgets. Number 16. Miller nearly quit movies. Before the cameras rolled on The Road Warrior, George Miller questioned whether he wanted to keep making films at all. The grueling pace and difficulties of the first Mad Max had left him exhausted and doubting his future as a director. Yet rather than stepping away, he used that uncertainty as fuel. Determined to outdo his own work, Miller poured himself into the sequel with greater ambition. Every stunt, every explosion, and every shot carried his determination to prove that the wasteland could be bigger and bolder than anything audiences had seen before. That drive turned doubt into triumph. Instead of walking away, Miller created a film that redefined his career and secured his reputation as one of the most daring action directors in the world. Number 17. Miller took over editing. Shaping the film's relentless pace didn't end with the cameras. It continued in the editing room. Dissatisfied with early cuts, George Miller decided to take on much of the editing himself. Though not formally trained, he relied on instincts sharpened from his days as an emergency doctor, where quick decisions and precision often meant the difference between success and failure. His hands-on approach gave The Road Warrior its signature rhythm. The cuts were sharp, the tension unrelenting, and the action sequences flowed with a sense of urgency that mirrored the wasteland itself. By refining the footage personally, Miller ensured the movie never slowed down. The result was more than just fast-paced editing. It became part of the film's identity, influencing not only later Mad Max installments, but also action cinema as a whole. Number 18. Filmed in story order. Most movies film scenes out of sequence for efficiency, but The Road Warrior took a different path. Miller insisted on shooting in chronological order, allowing the cast to experience the story as their characters did. This unusual choice had a powerful effect. As the plot escalated and the battles grew more intense, the actors carried that building tension naturally into their performances. The exhaustion seen on their faces wasn't just acting, it was real, accumulated over weeks in harsh desert conditions. While filming this way demanded more time and resources, the payoff was clear. The sense of progression gave the movie a unique authenticity, making the audience feel the rising stakes just as the characters did. Number 19. Road Warrior in our language. When the movie reached the US, it wasn't released as Mad Max 2, but as The Road Warrior, since the first film had barely been seen there. The new title worked so well that it took on a life of its own. Soon the phrase Road Warrior became part of everyday language, used to describe anyone constantly traveling for work, living out of suitcases, or spending long hours on the road. What began as a marketing choice transformed into a cultural catchphrase. It's rare for a movie to leave its mark on language itself, but The Road Warrior managed to do exactly that, showing just how deeply it resonated with audiences far beyond the screen. Number 20. The producer's tragic end. Behind the energy of The Road Warrior was producer Byron Kennedy, George Miller's close collaborator and co-creator of the series. Sadly, only 2 years after the film's release, Kennedy died in a helicopter crash while scouting locations. His passing was a heavy blow to the Mad Max team. Kennedy had been the driving force alongside Miller, bringing organizational skill and bold vision to a production that constantly pushed boundaries. The partnership between the two men was central to the success of the films. Though his life was cut short, Kennedy's influence continues to be felt. His name lives on through awards, tributes, and, of course, the enduring impact of the series he helped bring to life. Number 21. A museum in the Outback. Long after filming wrapped, the legacy of The Road Warrior found a permanent home in the Australian Outback. In the town of Silverton, near Broken Hill, where much of the movie was shot, a museum was created to showcase vehicles, props, and memorabilia from the production. Visitors can see replicas of Max's Interceptor, costumes, and rare behind-the-scenes photos that highlight the challenges of shooting in such a harsh location. For fans, it's more than just a display. It's a chance to step into the world of the wasteland and experience its history up close. The museum has become a pilgrimage site for enthusiasts from around the world, proof that the film's influence continues to stretch far beyond the screen. Number 22. Inventing the junkyard future. The rugged look of patched leather, spiked armor, and scavenged vehicles didn't exist as a cinematic trope before The Road Warrior. The film's creative team practically invented what later became known as the scrap metal apocalypse. This design language influenced countless other works, from films and television to video games and comic books. The blend of punk style and salvage machinery created a world that felt both terrifying and strangely stylish. Even decades later, whenever audiences see spiked cars or raiders clad in torn leather, they immediately think of George Miller's Wasteland. Few films have shaped an entire visual genre so completely. Number 23. Saturn Award Glory. Recognition for the film came not just from fans, but from the industry itself. At the Saturn Awards, The Road Warrior won Best International Film and was nominated in 5 other categories, including Best Director and Best Actor. These honors reflected how groundbreaking the movie was for both action cinema and science fiction. While many action films of the early 1980s came and went, The Road Warrior earned respect for its innovation and artistry, not just its spectacle. The accolades helped cement the movie's reputation as a genre classic, showing that even a modestly budgeted Australian production could stand proudly alongside Hollywood's biggest releases. Number 24, silent movie influence. Part of what makes the film so unique is how it borrows from cinema's earliest traditions. George Miller looked to silent films for inspiration, cutting back on dialogue and letting the visuals do the storytelling. In long stretches, the only sounds are engines, crashes, and the cries of the wasteland. These moments feel almost like a modern silent movie, where the action alone conveys meaning. It's a bold choice that gave the film a mythic, universal quality. This stylistic decision is why The Road Warrior still feels timeless. Its storytelling doesn't rely on words, but on images so powerful they can be understood anywhere in the world. Number 25, the tanker's hidden logo. A small but fascinating detail hides in plain sight during the tanker chase. Painted on the side of the massive truck is the logo Seven Sisters Oil, a reference to the idea that a handful of powerful companies once dominated the global fuel industry. For most viewers, it's just background decoration. But for those who notice, it adds another layer of meaning. The war for fuel in The Road Warrior becomes not just a story about survival, but a symbolic nod to real-world struggles over energy and power. This subtle touch shows the care that went into the film's design. Even the smallest details carry weight, giving fans new discoveries each time they revisit the wasteland. More than 4 decades later, The Road Warrior remains one of the most influential action films ever made. From daring stunts that pushed human limits to small details like a toy music box or a painted logo, the film's mix of danger, creativity, and vision left a permanent mark on cinema. It inspired countless filmmakers, reshaped the post-apocalyptic genre, and turned George Miller into a director whose bold style is still celebrated today. If you enjoyed discovering these hidden secrets, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories from film history. And now, we'd love to hear from you. What surprised you the most about The Road Warrior?